back, ladies and gentlemen. Well, with our main topic today, we're discussing today the tour that was made by Prime Minister Dr. Mustafa Madbouli to inspect the Grand Egyptian Museum and to have a look at or inspect the final touches and the completion of the last stages of the Grand Egyptian Museum before its inauguration. Also, the Prime Minister inspected the area around the pyramids, and this area was developed in order to be linked to the Grand Egyptian Museum. Well, to shed more light on this, we have the pleasure to have this phono with our dear guest, Dr. Yehia Abdel, Councillor of the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities. Good morning, sir.
Yeah,
Good morning. Hello?
Yes.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
How are you, sir? Well, sir, the Prime Minister, Dr. Mustafa Madbouli, have inspected the Grand Egyptian Museum to follow up on the final touches and also the area around the pyramids, which have been developed recently in order to be linked to the Grand Egyptian Museum. The importance of developing the pyramids area and the surrounding area.
Well, really, as we all know, the Grand Egyptian Museum, like the gem, is regarded, like as an icon for the third millennium. Its budget, like exceeding $1 billion, and construction phases, it has been just like for over 10 years now in different phases. And it's going to be housing 100,000 artifacts of Egyptian antiquities, like dating from pre-dynastic to Greco-Roman period, and as well as for the first time, the whole collection of King Tut will be displayed under one roof. So really, it's a great site museum, and Prime Minister Dr. Madbouli was checking on the latest developments before, inshallah, we look forward that it's going to be a grand opening this year, and it's of course linked with located in the Giza Plateau and linked with the Great Pyramids of Giza with a walkway, so like visitors will be capable of touring the museum facilities and attractions, and then taking part two of the tour and visiting the Grand Pyramids of Egypt at the Giza necropolis as well.
Yes, my question also, Dr. Abdel Qader, is the linking between, or making a link between the pyramids and the Grand Egyptian Museum through the development work that have taken place. How would this development work and linking the pyramids with the Grand Egyptian Museum would contribute to increasing the number of tourists that come to Egypt?
Well, it's a whole complex, like the pyramids, of course, they have been there for 45 centuries, and the concepts of the Egyptian authorities and the UNESCO and other culture and heritage archaeological institutions as well was to develop a site museum, which is the Grand Egyptian Museum, to reflect upon, like the prestigious, like and spectacular antiquities and heritage and archaeological, like remains that we have in Egypt. That's why we have a great museum, and there's going to be, like an avenue, like a walkway between the Great Pyramids of Giza and the museum site as well. And there's going to be facilities, like for the young, for the middle age, and for the elderly. It's going to be very comfortable for them with electric, like golf carts and other facilitation to make it accessible to even, like the, disabled, like visitors who come to this region.
Yes, so Dr. Abdel Qader, with the expected inauguration of the Grand Egyptian Museum very soon, what do we expect from the flow of the tourists, more tourists to Egypt? How would the inauguration of the Grand Egyptian Museum would change the map of tourism in Egypt and would add to the schedule and program of any tourist group coming to visit Egypt?
Well, actually, like I'm in contact with travel writers and tour operators and media friends, like in the tourism and leisure business worldwide, and there are expectations and forecast that, like around figure of, like total international arrivals to visit the museum will be around 5 million visitors. both, like regional and international as well. So this is really a great figure as compared to other great museums around the world, like the British, the Metropolitan. And this is a unique museum because of its value and its attractions and its facilities, like the restoration labs, the bookshops, the auditoriums, the conference rooms, and the bazaars and the shopping area, the facilities for the guests. So, and it's estimated that a visitor, like would take from 2 to 3 days to have, like a good, like tour and feeling about the antiquities and the history of Egypt. So this is going to increase, like the tourist nights all over on an annual basis, inshallah.
Yes, Dr. Abdel Qader, in your point of view, how would you explain to us on the importance of the Grand Egyptian Museum, which encompasses more than 50,000 pieces of ancient monuments, also encompassing the collection and treasures of Tutankhamun, the King Tut, which turns the minds of the whole world going crazy with loving King Tut. Yeah, give us your insight concerning the importance of the museum.
Well, really, like it's a great attraction and a great boost and contribution to Egyptian travel and tourism. Especially, like the whole world now in culture, tourism and heritage and archaeology, they are booming, like on a universal scale and a global scale as well. So it's a great contribution, and the whole area is going to be developed, like within the week and grand opening of the museum. We have an excellent airport that has been added to the 30 international airports in Egypt, the Sphinx One, which is nearly like it's 40 minutes away from the Grand Egyptian Museum. So we have direct flights worldwide, like from Europe, from Asia, from Africa, that would be landed in the Sphinx, and then they can directly will be led, like to conduct tours at the Grand Egyptian Museum, and then stay in the lodging facilities and properties in the neighborhood. The whole area, like for the locals, like who've been accustomed, like to welcome visitors and offer them, like a traditional rides, like of camels and chariots and all this. This is going to be organized in such a way it's going to be convenient and comfortable, like as a traveler experience to Egypt. Like this is a dear part of the pattern and tours to the pyramids area. And it's going to be lodging facilities, accommodation facilities, food and beverage services, shopping, bazaars, sports and attraction. So the whole, like area of the Giza necropolis will have a great facelift, and will feel this, like in the abundance and inflows of international travel to Egypt, and the revenues that will be generated for on the government scale and for the neighborhood, like who live in that area and support the travel industry.
Yes, so Dr. Abdel Qader, also as the state is linking the pyramids area with the Grand Egyptian Museum, with the development work that took place around the area of the pyramids, also how is it important to link also the old Egyptian Museum in Tahrir with the Grand Egyptian Museum?
Well, just I missed something, like that, like the Ministry of Transportation, they are developing, like an excellent subway service.
Yes.
And this is going to make it accessible, and like commuters and passengers, like and the transit visitors to Egypt will be capable, for example, to take the subway from Tahrir Square and all the way, like within like about half an hour, they're going to be in the like across the opening and the entrance of the Grand Egyptian Museum. So this is a great development. And of course, like Tahrir Square is over 100 years old now. It has been recognized worldwide as it has been constructed as a museum. Like this is the third museum worldwide to be developed as a museum to house antiquities and heritage and archaeological artifacts. So, of course, visitors come to Egypt, like they visit the Cairo Museum, and then they will be spending 2-3 nights, like touring the Grand Egyptian Museum. Then they will have time for the Al Fustat Museum for Civilization, and then they, like Old Cairo, and then we'll go to the Saladin, like Citadel, and then go to Mu'izz Street and Khal Khalili. So at least the visitors need like from 6 to 8 days to tour the archaeological sites in Cairo, apart from, like crossing the Nile between Luxor and Aswan.
Yes. Also, Dr. Abdel Qader, the importance of museums in general. Egypt have several museums recently. In the past years, Egypt have opened new museums in several governorates here in Egypt, and also renovated and developed the old museums in several governorates, like in Sharm el-Sheikh, in Kafr el-Sheikh, in El-Minya, in all governorates.
Well, as well, for the first time, the ministry is working with the private sector. That's why we have a great museum in Hurghada. This is, like a cooperation, like joint venture between Ministry of Tourism, Antiquities, and the private sector. So this is, like a new development, which is good. But we still, like have some more museums to add to our, like great line of international museums we have in Egypt. The Greco-Roman Museum will be opening shortly in Alexandria, and then the El-Minya Museum is going to be in the process of reopening again, as well as the Rosetta Museum, like is under development to be opening soon. So really, we have a network of, like established and internationally recognized museums nationwide for Egypt.
Yes, Dr. Abdel Qader, how is the diversity of the tourism in Egypt makes also Egypt one of the unique and important destinations in the whole world? We have several kinds of tourism, religious, cultural, monuments, Islamic, several, and Coptic, of course, several kinds of the beach also, and the safari, and several tourism kinds here in Egypt.
Well, really, this has been recently reflected in the international inflows of visitors to Egypt. For example, within the first 6 months of the year, we received over 7 million visitors, international ones that came to Egypt, and the revenues for the first 9 months of the year were exceeded $10 billion. So really, we have an increase of from 30 to 35% over the last year figures. And we expect more inflows of international travel as well. Like we have scheduled a flight to Sphinx Airport, to Marsa Alam, to Hurghada, Sharm el-Sheikh. So we have direct flights from Spain to Luxor and to Aswan. So really, inshallah, this is next to, as well, to the charter flight, like which is, like offering, like affordable airline, like transportation to visitors from Europe and from Asia. So really, inshallah, 23-24 is going to be an excellent year for international travel to Egypt.
Yes. Also, Dr. Abdel Qader, as we can see that with the diversity of several kinds of tourism in Egypt, what are the most important place or city or temples that the tourists would prefer to visit here in Egypt? The most important destinations here in Egypt?
Well, like, of course, Luxor and Aswan, like, are, regarded as the highlight of Egyptian, like, heritage, archaeology, and civilization. And the best way to do this, like, according to the CNN, to the National Geographic, to the independent, like, publications, is cruising the Nile between Luxor and Aswan and visiting the Abu Simbel Temple and the Queen Nefertari Temple over there. So this is one location, and then Cairo, of course, that houses, like the great museums, the Tahrir Square Museum, the Al Fustat Museum, and then the Old Cairo, like the religious complex. We have the Synagogue of Ben Ezra, it's Jewish relics, and then we have the Hanging Church, like related to Christianity. And then we have Amr ibn al-As Mosque in Fustat. So really, visitors can. I mean, classically, visitors were in 200 and 100 years, they would spend like about 2 to 3 months, like touring Egypt, all the way from Alexandria to Luxor and Aswan. But now, like we don't have this luxury. That's why visitors come from like 7 to 9 days to tour the attractions of Egypt.
Yes. Also, I would like to ask you, Dr. Abdel Qader, about the role that is exerted and efforts exerted by the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities to boost tourism in Egypt. Several initiatives were recently launched to attract more tourists to Egypt. Also, there are several pages and sites that is launched by the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities with several languages that answers all what the tourists would like to ask about. So give us an idea about this, please.
Yes, really, there's a great, like strategy by the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities. Like now they are using like digital marketing and social media and, like influencers like worldwide. So they come to Egypt and they have like great followers. And then we have celebrities, like who visit Egypt from time to time. And we have great events, like sports and international meeting, conferences, and all these attractions. So really, this is great support for Egyptian travel, as well as there is great meeting and incentives and conventions and exhibitions conducted in Egypt. And the Ministry of Tourism, they have a strategy for the travel shows, like they're going to be in the IMAX next October in Las Vegas. And this is a great conference for incentive and for meeting and events, there are other conferences like we're going to be held in Spain, in Portugal, in France, in Bergamo, in Italy. So they have an excellent, like line up to join international exhibitions and to promote Egypt on a global scale.
Yes, so Dr. Abdel Qader, during the inspection tour that was made by Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli to the Grand Egyptian Museum to follow up on the latest touches and the development work taking place there. He also visited the Khufu Ship Museum, which houses two solar boats that were built by King Khufu. So give us an idea about it. It was actually transferred last year, isn't it?
Yes, the solar boats, like discovered by Kamal Malach in 1954, one of them has been assembled and it took like about from 10 to 15 years. And this was moved to the Grand Egyptian Museum, but there was another boat. And the Japanese jointly with the Egyptian, professionals and Egyptologists and archaeologists, they were working to assemble them to be on display at the Grand Egyptian Museum as well. And really, there's a speculation, some professionals preferred it to be, next to the Cheops pyramid, because this is his legend, when it comes of the judgment, he was going to take the solar boats and go up, in the sky, to be judged, whether he's going to be in paradise or somewhere else. So, but they have been moved to the Grand Egyptian Museum. And of course, this is a better way to preserve it and to make it on display for international visitors worldwide.
Yes, I thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your valuable information. I really had the pleasure to have this phone with you. Thank you very much, Dr. Yehia Abdel Qader, Counselor of the Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities. Thank you for having this phone with you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, a short break and I want to be back with you.